What is a seller concession and how does that affect me and my real estate deal? Well, I'm Dustin over here at Mantle Realty, and today we are going to dive in on the ins and outs of seller concessions. So first off, what is a seller concession? It's just the money a seller is willing to pay to help close this deal out. But you might ask, what can you use seller concessions for? Well, pretty much anything that goes on the closing disclosure, it can be used for. So it could be things like origination fees, attorney fees, your buyer agent commission, inspections, appraisals, prepaid taxes and insurance. And even right now, the way that the interest rates are, a seller concession can actually buy down your interest rate with discount points. Seller concessions can also be a part of any repairs that you want done after you close on the property. So say you want new carpet, new paint, you can have a seller concession for $5,000 for a new paint job for your house. Pretty much the money's just going to go in there and they're going to use it everywhere that they want to, and you're still going to pay the painter. But it's something that you can think about if you're coming in and putting an offer in on a property and you want to ask for seller concessions. So if the seller doesn't have money to actually do some of the repair work, they can say, well, you can do that afterwards. Here you go. Here's $5,000. It'd be like a $5,000 reduction, but neither party actually has the money. So it just comes out in a wash and gets paid later on in the contract. So pretty much the repairs get done after you close on the property. Now you might ask, I haven't heard about this lately, and it used to be a thing. Why? Well, it's because whenever it's a buyer's market, and right now with the way the interest rates are, there's not a lot of properties out there, so there's not a lot of buyers that are looking, things like that. If a seller is really trying to intrigue somebody and say they don't have the money to offer all these repairs, or they just want to be an incentive for somebody not to have to bring as much down payment money to close on a house, they might offer a seller concession versus dropping the price of the house. For this example, let's just say it's a $300,000 house. If you could offer the house at $295,000, or you could offer the house at $300,000 with $5,000 in seller concessions, meaning, hey, you can buy this house and not have to bring as much money to the closing table. It helps out on that end of things for the down payment money and might make more potential buyers interested in the property. One quick caveat that you might want to know about seller concessions are they are limits based off of each loan product that's out there. So like FHA and VA USDA, they all have limits usually between 3 to 6% that you can use as seller concessions. You can't go over that. So say for example that you ask for 3% in seller concession, that's the most your lender's going to let you do, but you also have repair work and the seller can't actually pay for the repairs before closing. Well, guess what? You're going to have to decide which one it's going to be. Or maybe the seller's going to have to take a little bit less and you pocketed that money and pay for that repair outside of closing or after closing. Another thing you might want to consider is that you're paying more for the property if that seller doesn't actually agree to the closing cost and you just tack it onto the end. Because then you just finance that extra $5,000 into the life of the loan. So you're paying interest for $5,000 for the next 30 years. Is it something that you really want to do whenever a seller doesn't want to offer you concessions? So what can't you use seller concessions for? Well, one, it can't be cash going back to the buyer. So let's just say that you're doing a no down payment loan and the seller is willing to give you all your closing costs plus some for you to buy this property. And yes, that used to happen quite a bit. It'd be like people would get $5,000 in extra money to just close on a property. Hence the reason why I had 07, 08, 09. Yeah, other things that you can't have seller concessions pay for is personal property. So if you wanted new furniture inside of your house, or if you wanted new appliances that didn't go with the property, yeah, you can't add that in there if you wanted a new grill outside. Seller concessions is a very touchy subject. One thing that you might want to think about if you are a seller is saying, I only want to pay actual closing cost for the buyer. No prepayments, no warranties, no anything else. On the opposite end, if you're a great buyer's agent and you negotiate all the closing costs and you have extra money, make sure that you're using all that money and not leaving it on the table. Let's just take the example that you only had $4,500 in closing costs, but your seller offered you $5,000. What do you do with that other $500? So yes, it could go to a home warranty. It could go to a rate buy down, even if it's not a full percentage point. Things like that you can actually attach to the closing disclosure, and the seller still has to pay for it unless you put it actually in the contract. So I hope that helps you out today on what seller concessions are, and they're going to be more prevalent the more it becomes the buyer's market. If you need a great agent to be able to go over this, or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll be glad to answer any of those. I'm Dustin over here at Mantle, and thanks for watching.